Okay, I think that we are just about ready to start. Let's arrange you so that you are like so.
Tina's there, and I think Archie too. So yeah. Well, I will talk about them.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Right. Well, here is our final digital lunch before the winter break, and we'll hopefully be back to you in spring with a whole new series of lunches and talks about digital archaeology and digital heritage. But it is my immense pleasure to introduce Marta Diaz-Guardamino.
Yes.
Almost. And shockingly, I think I've known Marta since you were at Berkeley while I was doing my PhD. And over the years, I've stayed in touch and gone through conferences and things together. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to see her immense success up in Durham in her latest projects and which I think she'll be talking about some today. And I'm really excited to also hear more creative and interesting uses of RTI because it seems like a technology very much that kind of comes and goes over the years in use and prevalence, but has really come into its own as some of the standards and technology become a little bit more standardized. So take it away, Marta.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Colin, for your invitation. So it's really great to be here. After a few attempts to come, yeah, we made it. Yeah, I would like to, well, first of all, introduce the project, which started with Professor Katina Lilios, who has joined us today. I don't know if you're around, Katina.
Yes. Hi. I'm
So
here.
I don't know if you want to say something or if you want me to introduce the project and
Take it away, Marta. I'm happy to I'm
yeah.
happy to watch. Thank you.
Yeah. So Katina is here, and also Archie. He probably made it. So he's in the field working with field work, but he told me that he would try to join in his lunch break. So the whole project, exploring communities of practice through the application of RTI, so the case of Iberian Neolithic and Copper Age plaques, started with Katina, of course, because she's one of the specialists, the key specialist in these very beautiful decorated plaques from Iberia. She has published widely about them. And we once had a meeting about, the potential application of RTI on a group of plaques. And we started to work together. And then after that, Archie joined the project because he had just completed a wonderful dissertation on Mesolithic portable art, also applying RTI. So he was very much exploring the same questions that we have been exploring with the plaques. So the idea of the project was to, as Colin said, to explore the potential of RTI to analyze the plaques from a more like technological point of view and social point of view, how they were produced, and if we could say something about the social relations of people involved in the production of these plaques. So I'll provide a little bit of background. Let's see if I can. So I'm doing something wrong, probably. Sorry, no, it's okay, don't worry. I can do it like this. So late Neolithic and Copper Age Iberia. So some of you may be familiar with it, some of you not at all. But these decorated plaques, I will show you a picture very quickly, very soon, sorry, appear in the southwest of late Neolithic and Copper Age Iberia. They are usually dated from the mid-4th millennium to the beginning of the 3rd millennium. And they appear in a context where the copper smelting appears in Iberia. Also, there is the development of large settlements or sites like Valencina de la Concepción, which is known as a mega site. And we also register increased connectivity. So we have lots of materials arriving to Iberia from afar. For example, we have ivory from African and also Asian elephant. We have amber from Sicily and other very special items. So here you have one example from Valencina de la Concepción. This is the PP4, well, this is one of the graves from Montelirio, very special, with a female individual buried there with a lot of, like a set of lavish grave goods, among others, also ivory items. And here you have some other items that were found in that context. Among others, this rock crystal dagger, which is world famous because it's very unique and it's pretty amazing. So added to that, we also have plenty of megalithic funerary monuments, big monuments that appear in many different parts of Iberia, but they are particularly abundant in the southwest, precisely in the area where these plaques appear. So this is one of the examples that we have studied, and they mainly appear in this kind of megalithic monuments, but also in rock-cut tombs, but also sometimes in settlement sites. And they are made of stone, more frequently of slate, and they are cut with this very characteristic shape and incised with also a very characteristic set of patterns. Katina, in her previous work, she distinguished 8 different types. And as you can see here, the most frequent of all is the classic type. So those are, the plaques that we have studied, also most of them belong to this type, which is, it has 3 parts. And they are quite standardized in the way they are decorated, as I will explain later. But you have some that also have perforations and also some that even have like anthropomorphic shape and are very, decorated with a lot of different elements, even sun eyes. So the size, they are not very large. You can hold them with your hand, and they have been found in these, in megalithic funerary monuments. But of course, these are monuments that had recorded very long or repeated use with a lot of disturbance to the deposits. So it's very, very difficult to know how they were originally deposited. But there are a couple of instances where it could be seen that they seemed to be linked or related to specific individuals. So they seem to be linked to specific people in those graves. But some of the megalithic monuments may record, like more than dozens, many plaques. So, and some others just have a handful of them. This is the distribution. They are mainly found in the southwest, and mainly, most of them are found in the area of Portugal that is in the Alto Alentejo. So it's the north of Alentejo, of the region of Alentejo. So most of them appear there, but you have also examples even in the lower Guadalquivir, in Valencina de la Concepción, or around Lisbon. So here you have the main characteristics of the classic plaques that were described by Katina as 3 sections. So there is a middle band that separates the upper part and the lower part. And the upper part is usually composed of what is called a collar and different straps. And then the lower part usually has different registers with patterned decorations too, of different kinds, as I will show later. But as you can see, most of the decoration is cross hatches and also incisions of parallel lines that are decorated inside. So the lower part, the register, can have checkboards, herringbone pattern, triangles, zigzags, vertical bands, and chevrons. But as you can see here, most often, or the most frequent ones, are either triangles or chevrons. So you see that the decoration of these plaques and also the shape of the plaques is quite standardized. There have been, there has been a lot of research about the plaques and also different interpretations about their meaning and function or use. One of the most influential, especially in Portugal, was proposed by Victor Gonçalves, who believed that these plaques represented divinities and idols. So they were religious idols or symbols. They were possibly representing a mother goddess, and he thought so because they were very standardized precisely. No? Another hypothesis was proposed and developed by Catina and also by another Portuguese researcher, Isabel Gomes Lisboa. So this idea was initiated by Gomes Lisboa and then developed by Catina in her research. And proposing that the decoration of the plaques worked as genealogical charts, no? So that the plaques themselves were devices to memorize genealogies, and that they used a semasiographic writing system, so a kind of writing without words system to record, for example, this kind of knowledge about the genealogical links of individuals. And another proposal that has been put forward by Spanish researchers is that they were social or territorial affiliation markers, so that they were signaling the regional or local territorial identity of people. So the mini project that we started had two key questions that we wanted to answer. First of all, how was plaque production organized? Whether we had, whether the production was centrally controlled by a few specialists. So were these specialists who were in charge and were the producers of these plaques primarily, or was the production more regionally or even locally distributed, no? Through local producers that were not necessarily specialists. So regarding technology and potential workshops, there was very little archaeological information. So we had the site of Aguas Frias, excavated a few years ago. That is a major center for schist plaque production. So it's a workshop, a proper workshop where all the chaîne opératoire stages are represented archaeologically. And there they found lots of tools made of quartz. But then there is also another interesting context in a settlement site called Peda Erra in Coruche, where they found a context where related to plaque production that it was interpreted perhaps as a context related to production by an itinerant craft person. There has been experimental work by Thomas and colleagues and also by Catina. And everything suggests that, producing a plaque, it doesn't necessarily take many hours, but that it was probably made with very hard, like tools, lithic tools made of hard stone, like quartz or flint. So to explore our research questions, we had to select the case studies very well because so on the one hand, what we did, we selected two sites, and there we selected a range, like a group of plaques from each site, because we wanted to test whether all the plaques could be related to the same community of practice or not, if they shared specific traits or not. And then another series of plaques that were coming from different sites, but still from the same region, because we wanted to test whether any of these were also sharing traits with the ones that are found in the big groups, in these two sites. So it was 26 plaques from 10 sites in total. And the aim was, like, to put it very simply, was to identify communities of practice. So what is a community of practice? It can be defined in many different ways, but it's not just looking at the technological side of things. It's not just to look at the biography of an artifact. It's going, or trying to go, a little bit beyond that. Beyond the technological traits, or beyond the marks of, that can index a complex biography, by trying to explore how the producers, or the people that have been involved in producing those marks of preparation, those marks of production, those marks of reshaping, and so on, could have been related as part of a community of practice, or different communities of practice. So a community of practice could be defined as a group of people that share knowledge and expertise about a specific craft. No? And in this case, the craft would be a plaque production, or any kind of engagement with this kind of artifacts. I included here a definition of skill because we mentioned skill later, and of course, skill is a very subjective trait, I guess. And we will see a couple of examples where, well, we could say that the persons that were involved could have, like, perhaps more experience in producing those marks than others, because they seem to be better finished. So they may have had better, so they may have been more skilled than others. So RTI, as probably most of you know, if not all of you, is reflectance transformation imaging. So it's a technique, a digital visualization technique that does not produce 3D, but it produces what we call 2.5D. So what RTI does is captures the reflectance of materials to model the topography of surfaces. So it's a very easy to apply technique. It's very clever how they developed this in the early 2000s. And they started using it in gaming, first of all, and then in conservation. And it was immediately adopted by archaeologists because it produces very, very high resolution images that allow you to explore the texture of surfaces in great detail. And if you're interested in this kind of production marks, or in anything that is related to production or biographies of objects, and this kind of very subtle marks on the surface of objects, RTI is a really useful technique. So RTI works by taking a series of photographs from a sensor, from a camera that doesn't move, and the artifact doesn't move either. So it's very different from photogrammetry in that sense. But the only thing that is moving is the light. And one way you have to capture different photographs with light coming from different directions is like this graph. So you may have a camera with a tripod in front of the subject that you want to photograph, and then light the area with a flash gun, for example, connected to the camera, and take around 60 pictures with the flash gun pointing towards the object from different points, with different orientations. So what you do with the camera, you record the ways in which the material is reflecting the light. And if you use a very high resolution camera, as we have used, this means that you're going to record the reflectance per pixel. And this means that then the model that you're going to create with the RTI algorithms is going to be very, very detailed. So it's going to produce this kind of very detailed renderings of the surface texture. So this is the setup. It's not complex at all. So you just need a very good camera with a good sensor. We were using here, I think it was the Nikon D810, but now you could use one of the wonderful mirrorless cameras that Nikon has. And we did this in the National Museum of Lisbon, in the place where they have all the materials from Perdigoes. So it's different archaeological sites. So the good thing is that this setup is very mobile. You can move with it. And the only thing that you need to do is not only include a scale in your pictures, but also include a sphere. And the sphere is the way we have to record the reflectance, so the orientation, so the direction, so where the light is coming from. So this is the highlight RTI capture method. Now there's another method that is the dome, which is it has all the capture automated. No. But you cannot really bring the dome with you if you're traveling and if you go to the field or to a museum. So this is much more practical. So this is the kind of data set that you produce and then you process it, and you may visualize this with the traditional RTI viewer, or also now you can visualize it through other means, for example, your Chrome Internet Explorer and so on. So there is this new kit of software, the Relight or Relight Lab, which is still being developed, but it's much easier than the processing software that we had before. So it is through this viewer tool that you can bookmark and you can explore the surface of objects, the digital models. You can apply filters, you can scrutinize this surface detail, no? And all the marks that you may see, and you may also bookmark them and so that others are able to go exactly and inspect the same details that you have found. So I will show an RTA file later once I finish. But Archie is the one that has been working mainly with the files, and he has been bookmarking very, in much detail all the files, and yes, it has been a lot of work for him. So through the analysis of the RTI files, but also, of course, we inspected the plaques in vivo. So you need to really do both things. We have detected many different marks, some of them related to surface preparation, some others indicating layering and overlapping that inform us about the engraving sequence, but also corrections, rescoring, and even evidence of reuse and repair. So I will show you some examples from these plaques. So we have evidence for surface preparation, and in some cases, for example, in this one from Anta da Capella, we have a lot of very fine striations that are mainly vertical, that of course come before all the incised decoration. But there are other plaques where you have the evidence of the striations are in different directions. So you may not have them only in vertical, but also horizontal. So it seems that for some plaques, they moved the plaques around until they reached or produced the soft surface that they wanted. And you have other cases like this one from Anta dos Varelas, where you see that the surface preparation is a little bit more coarse and also a little bit more not so orderly, no? Because you have some parts where you have diagonal marks and all other parts where you have them just vertical. Here you can also see some surface preparation marks, and you can see here, for example, that they may have used more coarse material to prepare the surface because it's not as flat and soft as they were able to achieve with other marks. We also have evidence for sequencing. So in some cases, we have the top-down, top-bottom sequencing. And we see this because through overlaps of the different incisions. And this is the most common sequence, so from top to bottom. And this has also been recorded through other research by another research group, and they have come to the conclusion too that this is the most common way of decorating a plaque. But interestingly, so in this case, this is the kind of evidence that we find. So we find that the registers that are added in the lower part are superimposed very, very slightly on some of the incisions that have already been made. And these kind of superimpositions are very difficult to see them, to detect. So it's very difficult. So sometimes you have to spend quite a lot of time with the RTA file to find exactly what you need to discern if it was top-bottom or bottom-up. In this case, from Perdigoes, the sequence is the reverse. And this is not so common, but in this case, we're pretty sure that it was made the other way around. And this can be seen in the band that separates the lower part, the register, from the upper part. So you have the little triangles that are added, and I don't know if you can see it very well here, but they come over the horizontal incision, and the upper part of the triangles are scored with another incision in their upper part. So it seems that the sequence on that tablet goes from the lower part to the upper part. There are also indications of some internal sequencing in the registers. For example, in this case from Anta Capella again, when you see the second register, you see that the two central triangles overlap. And this could have happened because they started decorating on the sides, and then they went to the center and they found out that they didn't have enough space. So this is, one possible explanation. Whereas in the upper part, you see that it seems the sequence of decoration seems to have been different, perhaps from the center to the sides. And there are other examples. There is also evidence for rescoring and also evidence of some errors. And well, I will show you later on this plaque. But you can see here some lines that were redone because, they weren't exactly where they need to be. We also have evidence for tool degradation. So some of the tools that they used, either they were made of quartz or flint, probably as they were doing the decoration, they got worn out. And in some cases, like for example, here in the area surrounding the perforation, it seems that the incision cannot be, maintained very in line, no? So it's a little bit curved. But there are other examples that are, sorry, that are really good. For example, in the cross-hatching in this upper part, within the horizontal incisions, you see that some of the fine lines of cross-hatching are more intense than others. So this could be, of course, of wearing, but also in some cases, it seems that, it depends on the tool that they are using, probably. And here, this case is really, really interesting because you have, in some of the triangles, the right line, you have the very characteristic indentation of some flint tool marks. So you see here is a double indentation in some of the right lines of the triangle, but in some others it's very different and is more it's deeper. So you see that there are clear differences between lines on the same plaque and on the same motifs. So this seems to show that, well, the tools probably were being worn out as they were being used. Here you have another example. Here you can see it very well. And yes, if you compare it to this one, for example, that is deeper. So what we can see overall is that there are similar manufacturing techniques but also there is a degree of variation in some traits in some of the groups, as we will see. So, for example, in the group of Perdigoes, we have a series of plaques that seem to show very consistent traits for example, in the engraving and also in the reuse. And we think that perhaps this is signaling one single small community of practice. Also, for example, in the way they are reusing some of the older plaques. Here you have a small fragment, it's very tiny, and it was cut, so it's a part of an older plaque, but it was, here redecorated. But then we have Anta dos Pardais, the 3. That is a funerary monument that was almost disappeared, so it was almost completely destroyed. But they found a very nice assemblage of plaques, and they have very different traits in the way they are decorated, the sequences they are using for decorating them, and also some of the traits that we have seen as examples. No, so here there is a lot of variability, whereas in Perdigoes there wasn't so much variability. And these were the 2 case studies where we had groups of plaques. But we also have plenty of evidence of reuse and repair. So one of the nicest examples is this one from Anta dos Pardais, where you can see that there are incision marks in this area that had already been chipped off. So this is made also with the same type of tools that some of the decoration is. So you see that they are engaging with this material, despite it, being perhaps breaking out, and And there is also evidence for drafts, if you wish, or practice motifs. No, so drafts or sketches of some of the decoration. In this case, the other side of the plaque has a finished decoration. On this side, you seem to have perhaps the draft or just a test on how the decoration could work out, but you have plenty of marks. So you not only have here evidence of how they plan and organize the kind of decoration with the triangles in the center, but also lots of evidence of polishing or surface preparation. And we have also evidence of some mistakes, which are very, very interesting. As you can see here, there is one example where you have this line that is closing the triangle, and this one too. So I don't really know which one came first, but you see that you have these 2 lines that don't really fit with the general decoration. So I think that in general, what we could see is that RTI was really good at picking up these details and also producing good visualizations of all these details, because normally with the color and the texture of slate, is not always very easy to see all these details. And what we have is, as I said, so in Perdigoes, we seem to have what could be one single community of practice, and what we have in Anta dos Pardais 3 could be different communities of practice. So in the case of Anta dos Pardais, because it's a funerary monument, it could fit very well because it's a funerary monument with a lot of individuals that could come from different family groups. It could fit the idea of, you have different communities of practice depending on the community or the family where you come from or the village. In the case of Perdigoes, it's very interesting because, as you know, Perdigoes is a site with several enclosures. It's a so-called mega site, but it's not as large as other sites. But as I will show in the last slide, there is evidence showing that people like human remains found in funerary contexts show that these were people coming from many different locations. So having indication of just one community of practice in the way the plaques are being handled is quite interesting, actually. And this is the slide. So we can have a better understanding of how plaque production worked if we apply RTI or other techniques to improve visualization. And perhaps start exploring or interpreting how the organization of plaque production was in the Chalcolithic. But of course, we cannot really use our conclusions regarding plaque production to what happened with people directly. And I think that Perdigoes is potentially a really interesting case. So one thing is how they are handling these materials. Another thing is, where people are coming from and moving around. And yes, just thank you very much to Antonio Valera, who is the director of the excavations in Perdigoes, who gave us permission to study the materials from there, and also Antonio Carvalho, who is the director of the National Museum of Lisbon, that gave us also permission to work there, and funding from the University of Iowa and the University of Durham. And thank you very much. That's it.
Well, thank you so very, very much for that talk. It was fantastic. I have obviously my own questions, but does anyone have any questions to start us out? Go on, Hen. Oh, can you come up here? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Firstly, are they single-sided or double-sided? What's on the back?
Well, on the back, yeah, I will. On the back, you may have them not decorated, but some of them are decorated, like this one that I showed. This one.
Okay.
So, but Katina, I mean, if you want Katina to reply, please feel free. But yeah, they are normally decorated on one side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Obviously you've got really beautiful results from the RTI. Have you tried any other visualization techniques yet? Or you've been focusing mostly on, or are you planning to do any other?
Well, we could do, I mean, we could do Katina. I think that for now we have just applied RTI, but I think that, yeah.
Very successfully.
Yeah, but we could do, we could apply a profilometer, for example. That would be really useful, that we have been applying to another type of element decorated also on slate. And it showed really, really nice results in terms of, for example, the use of the tool when decorating, no? So to analyze angles and things like that, we could do something like that, yeah.
Okay, so any other kind of three-dimensional?
No, we haven't.
Not really?
Might be worth having a go with the spider too.
Yeah, for sure.
See how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
The only downside with that is because the plaques themselves are so thin, you might not be able to get a full model. You may only get like one side. That's the only downside
joining
with
the
that
potential
items.
Yeah.
No, so see, because of this, I mean, they're really good because they are so flat that obviously they're perfect.
Yeah,
for this
but
kind of thing, aren't
RTI,
they?
very easy, yeah.
But I was just sort of thinking, in terms of like different kinds of edge detection techniques, if you had a three-dimensional model, whether that was something that you were going to or had looked at.
No, but it would be interesting to compare.
Yeah, I mean, it might not get any better results of it. We just don't know.
Or,
Well,
or
It's worth a test, isn't it?
The obvious,
yeah,
the obvious
exactly.
analog is what they did with the star car pendant, and doing like SEM and stuff. And I think they're able to do some of the complex like the analysis of the marks that you're able to do here. So I might just enhance existing work, though.
Yeah.
No, it was really nice. Thank you. Oh, the other thing I was going to ask is when you said you obviously you do a lot of this stuff on the hoof, like when you're out and about doing it. How do you control the lighting when you're doing that? Because you showed your setup, but I couldn't see any information about how you actually decide, either cut out light or get in the correct angles compared to say using a dome.
Yeah, no, it's just
is it just skill?
Yeah. Well, it's with the flash gun, and I used to use the cord to maintain the distance, but sometimes I just I do one round and then
practice.
Yes, but I think that that's a really important point, because I think that so you really need to assess the quality of an RTI also from the reflectance, so from the virtual ball, no, that is captured there. If you have, if you have kept the same distance, and if you have sampled more or less all the surface, because otherwise the results will be, different. So yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question online here.
Mhm.
And so Joanna says, hello, Joanna. Do you want to turn your camera on and ask this, or do you want me just to read it out loud?
Oops.
Yep, there's
Hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hello.
Yeah, thanks, Marta. That was really, really interesting. And I was just wondering, so I guess you found all this evidence for reworking, and I guess the designs were implemented directly onto the surfaces, so they wouldn't have been pre-drafted or anything. They probably had them in their minds, and they're like, right, this is what I want to draw, and then they would just kind of directly mark them on the surfaces rather than kind of, tried to make it neat, I guess, with a previous draft.
Mm. I don't know what, Katina, perhaps you want to, because I am sure you will have ideas about this. But yeah.
Yeah, the one, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for a wonderful talk, Marta. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Very.
So what's interesting to me is that the one that you showed that had the draft on the back is actually it's a complex plaque, right? It's not a true classic plaque. It has that sort of shouldered form. It has multiple things going on. So I think the need for the draft was probably greater in the more complex when it was not a classic plaque. Whereas the classic plaques, I've actually made one. I don't have it here with me, but they're, once you have it in your head, they're pretty easy to do correctly. So I think it would actually be, this would be a bigger study, but it would be interesting to see if drafting is more likely to be visible in these more complex, rarer plaque types than the classic ones, which again are pretty straightforward, surprisingly easy to make, actually. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have to say that when I have conducted RTI on other slate artifacts, you sometimes can see very, very fine lines that either are motifs that have been erased, or these are perhaps very fine lines that they have done at the beginning to follow as an initial draft. But in these cases, I don't think we have detected that in any of the plaques. So I wonder if they were, yes, exactly. So these were people that perhaps had some experience, no, in producing this decoration. They just did it in one go. But that would be something very interesting to test, actually.
Yeah. I mean, what to me is really striking, Marta, when I look at these plaques using this very high resolution imagery, is just how variable the skill level. I mean, skill is such a loaded term, but clearly, they were makers who had very good control, of the lines, and their hatching is just perfect, spot on, right in the spaces. Whereas others, just like are all over the place. You can see them. Their lines are irregular. Their hatching is falling outside of the bounds. They're fixing things. Sometimes I found that even plaques where the perforation was not working, where they had to try it a couple times. The lines are also all over the place. So you can sort of see like the B or C category of makers. But what's interesting as an anthropologist is that they were all allowed to make plaques, right? It wasn't like, oh, only the really, really top line makers were out there. It was an acceptable activity for anybody who could sort of get it done more or less correctly. So I think that's important to think when thinking about craft specialization and that sort of thing. I don't know if you have thoughts on this, Marta. Well, Archie's not here, has spent a lot of time looking at these images, but
But Penny has a question.
just following on from that, I'm interested to, I guess, know how you think the plaque that I think it's really wonderful what you've done. Like it's really exciting, and to talk about communities of practice is really fantastic as well, to show that it's everybody, it's not just some specialized people. How do you think that fits in with like the rest of the material culture that you're seeing? So I think one of the ivory tusks at Valentina della Concerto has the same kind of like triangular patterns on, and then you've got that crystal dagger that I remember seeing at the museum and it's still like burnt in my brain.
Amazing, yes.
There must have been someone who's very highly craft skilled. So are they something which is accessible to everyone that some things perhaps aren't, or do those kind of skills carry through to some of these other materials that people have access to at this time?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, we have evidence for a workshop, an ivory workshop in Valentina La Concepción, but I'm not really sure they were using similar tools or similar, techniques. So I don't know if we could really talk about some kind of cross craft because there are some plaques, for example, in Valentina. But this comparison has never been made. But I believe that because of the material properties of ivory, they really require very specialized knowledge on how the tasks, for example, behave when you try to produce a surface to decorate and any artifact, because it's very difficult really to work. Whereas I think that working slate is a completely different story. So it's, I mean, one thing that I found really interesting from these decorated plaques is that they are using slate from specific sources. So in some cases, the nearest source is 50 kilometers away, or even further away. So it's not always material that is nearby. So they are obviously moving material to produce these things. But I think that in terms of the production, also the sheer number, like Katina has estimated around 1,900 plaques, but there were probably many more. So, and it's just this restricted region. So I don't know. I think that probably we're talking about something very different from the type of grave goods that you find in these very special places of Monteliria. But also, I mean, yeah, even if you compare it to, for example, the bedded garments, no, from Monteliria, which you could say, okay, this is shell material, you could collect it from the beach, but just the number, no, it's like 250,000 beads that need to be produced. You need to somehow control the production to really be able to accumulate that amount of material. Now, whereas the plaques, I think it's really interesting that they are dispersed and distributed throughout the region, and that also indicates that there is some distribution there in terms of knowledge production and so on.
Yeah. Okay. One more question. Reb, can you ask it in a minute, or David, or which one? Do you want a fist fight for it? All right.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, is there any evidence for use of pigments on these things? Because what strikes me is we're seeing these with the benefit of amazing photography, amazing lighting, big screen. I'm thinking about how they would be observed by the observer. How close do you actually have to be to read, in inverted commas, what these things are saying? They've got these very fine lines. Do you have to be physically proximate to people to see what they look like?
Sorry,
it's like or is it something which can be understood from a distance?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I think that some of them, when they are freshly made, you can see the incisions very well. But I know that Katina will have a better answer to this because she knows the material like in so much detail. I don't know if there has been any evidence of pigment on any of them.
Well, some of them, that's a great question. I mean, first of all, you really do have to kind of get up close and look at them. They really kind of force a kind of intimacy. You can't just put it out there and read them. But it's some of them that I saw in museums. Marta actually did seem to have some kind of pigmentation or, white chalky stuff inside. Now, I don't know if that's just the sediments in which they were found. I know that Mimi Bueno Ramirez has suggested that they might have had some pigmentation on them. So that is definitely a possibility. Maybe some PXRF work on them could sort of detect some interesting coloration. But I will say that as soon as you start handling them, and the ones that I've made experimentally, obviously people touch and everything. As soon as you start handling them, the lines basically disappear because the oils on people's hands just kind of obliterate the line. So they're kind of nice when they're clean and dried. But again, once people start to handle them, you can't see you can't read them very easily. So yeah, that's a great, yeah, you can kind of see a little bit of that. And when the lines are really deep, it obviously helps, like the one on the left versus the one on the right.
Yeah, but I think that, yeah, what you say, I think that there would be something to be done there with, XRF or something like that, like a small project, perhaps with an assemblage coming from a funerary monument like the ones from Pradesh, no, and check if there is, because it could be, I mean, it doesn't need to be red pigment. It could be some kind of white material, as it has been documented on beakers, for example. This kind of white material made of osseous, made of bone or something like that. No, that perhaps they may have treated it, wrapped them so that you could see the incisions better, or I don't know.
Watch this space. Thank you so very much, everyone, for coming. And you'll catch up with us again in February. So watch your emails and watch your social media. Thank you so much, Marta.
Thank you so much,
Fantastic. And your
Colleen.
team. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Katina.